Hey, listeners, I'm Laura,
Hey listeners, I'm Billy with an IE.
and welcome to the Vampcast, lurking here on Pirate Core Entertainment Network. We are a spoiler filled podcast covering all things vampire related, or sometimes vampire adjacent. And currently, we're dedicating our podcast to AMC's Vampire Lestat. We will do our best to avoid future book spoilers in our discussion, but if you are interested in book talk, we will add that at the very end of our podcast.
Today we'll be covering the Vampire Lestat episode 4 entitled The Devil's Road. As the band, the Vampire Lestat, continues their American tour along the long and lonesome highway, Lestat recalls his own first trip down the Devil's Road with Gabriella in the 1700s. In the present time, Armand is going through his own journey of redemption as he seeks to apologize to those he's harmed throughout his long vampiric life. Meanwhile, Louis cannot put the brakes on his fascination with Regina and proposes a new employment situation to the young Claudia doppelganger.
And before we hop into our podcast, we'd love to hear from all of you. Go to our Facebook or Instagram pages at facebook.com, the Vampcast Podcast, or at the Vampcast Podcast on Instagram. And there you'll find posts on the topics that we'll be covering. So feel free to leave us a comment so that we can read them on the episode. You also can send us an email or a recorded voice memo to thevampcast143@gmail.com. Or to make it even easier, just check out our parent network website at piratecoreentertainment.com. That's pirate, CORPS entertainment.com, where you can check out all the other shows and movies we'll be covering on the network. And while you're in your podcast player, maybe leave a kind review. It helps us to get noticed. We are on all of the podcast players of choice like Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, etc. Plus, we'd love it if you shared the podcast with a friend or maybe shared one of our posts. So, moving on to the episode, The Devil's Road. Initial thoughts? Mine was another incredible episode. I'm never bored for a second with this show. In fact, it moves so quickly, I really need to do multiple watches because it's really hard to catch everything the first time. But the show is so engaging, I never mind watching it. And this episode had like 90% messy, toxic, real lives of vampire wives reality show, and 10% the most uncomfortable, hard to watch scene, like an indie film or something, and the writers are like rapid fire delivering us all this artful and hilarious dialogue. So, another awesome episode, I thought.
I have to agree. And, I saw, again, I have qualms with people on the social medias because I feel like people who understand I almost said course material like we're in a class. I feel like the people who understand the material less have a lot to say about it because whenever people complain about the weird relationship between Gabrielle and Lestat, I kind of want to chime in and I make a point not to argue with strangers on social media or in general because it's the fruitless debate, fruitless. But I love how Gabrielle is being depicted, and I love that Lestat is coming off as a mama's boy, a
Hmm.
neglected mama's boy. But that's when you're an immortal, so the things that happen to you in your mortal life will follow you forever. That is one of the main characteristics and traits of amongst the vampires in this series is that they grow older every year, but they don't change. That is the focal point, the core of vampirism, is that you do not change at all. You can't even
Hmm.
change your hairstyle,
Yeah.
you know? So for Lestat to, after 260 some odd years, still be distraught and bereft and longing and chasing after that relationship with his mother, that makes sense. That
Well, cool.
that plays to the physics of this world. And so I loved it. I loved it, and I loved the diss track that he made for Armand towards the end of the episode. And I loved the foreshadowing of Larry's, continuing kind of discomfort with the things that are going on with the band, and then also this new and I wouldn't say improved Alex. He's
Mm-hmm.
definitely different than he was before. Armand has
Yeah.
definitely done something to him. And so, yeah, it was a great episode. And I will say that despite the fact that I think it's a great episode, it's probably my least favorite episode so far.
Interesting. Yeah. But I guess that's like pizza, you know.
True. Yeah.
You never have a bad pizza. It's
No.
always good. And yeah, I don't think since this series has started, there's been a bad episode that I wouldn't totally rewatch.
No. Not a bad episode, but not my favorite.
Cool. All right. So we'll move on to our first highlights, and I'll let you go first, Billy, because we had to switch around our lineup of people if you want to take the first highlight.
Sure. So in this episode, I want to reiterate that the vampires have made it very clear that they don't like talking about their mortal lives to each other. And I think because Gabriella was such a big part of Lestat's mortal life, he's currently lying about his relationship with her and the fact that she's even still alive. So when he's talking to Dan about Gabriella, he says that she's dead, and then it cuts to her and him in the carriage, and they're basically mapping out their immortality together.
Hmm.
And you can kind of get a hint at Gabriella's kind of conflicting thoughts about forever with her son. And one of the main things I love about it is that in the books, and I know we're not supposed to talk about the books, but I will say this: Lestat definitely makes a point, or Lestat definitely has a contempt for life, and every time he kills somebody, it's revenge against life. And
Mm.
I think Gabriella embodies that in the TV show series. Gabriella's praying mantis moment was also one of my favorite moments where she's having sex with the I think he was a priest or a monk,
Yes.
and she kills him in the process. And also the fact that Gabriella is definitely taking this whole vampire thing very seriously because she's actively pursuing evil.
Hmm.
And uh, it's kind of reminiscent of Akasha's pursuit of evil. It's almost like Gabrielle and Akasha might have the same ideas, and I'm wondering if that's going to come to head when
Mm.
the whole thing happens. Because if you recall at the very beginning of the first episode, she's not amongst the people auctioning or at the auction of his stuff.
Yes.
She's not
True.
there.
Hmm.
So I wonder if Gabriella and Akasha become uh companions or dynamic duo, which would be really freaking cool. I love this new Gabriella. I
Uh-huh.
love that she's becoming this big personality, this force of nature, as she likes to describe herself.
Yes. I have that as my first highlight too. And when you mentioned her killing of the priest who she's in bed with,
Hmm.
someone brought this up, and I thought it was a perfect comparison. If you've ever seen the movie Gone Girl, there is a very dramatic scene in there, a dramatic killing,
Hmm.
very similar to that killing that Gabrielle had in this episode. And the same thing. I like that they start off their journey kind of like pals. They're like, it's like when you go on your own road trip and you're with a gang of friends and you're like, yeah, this is fun. We're gonna have fun. They're talking about all the fun things they're gonna do. They're gonna become highwaymen and they're gonna become pirates and all this fun stuff,
Hmm.
And then they get to the tavern, and that scene when she's having sex loudly. I mean, is she just a loud person, or is now that she's like, I imagine she never was with the Marquis. So I imagine now that she's got her own sexual liberation, she's doing whatever the hell she wants. And
And her loud noises could be all,
a
oh
triggering
my God.
device for Lestat.
Well, maybe because then he might still have those antiquarian ideas of women, especially his mother, and how they should be acting and the etiquette that
Hmm.
they should have. But I think maybe Gabriella is performing pleasure when she makes those noises, like as if to
Hmm.
prove to herself and everyone around here that I can do whatever the fuck I want. And
Hmm.
so maybe that's why, you're probably right. Marquis probably never gave her even close to an orgasm. So
No. And sadly, they had many children to show for it, sadly.
hmm
But
hmm
yeah, so when the stock comes storming in, that was just the most uncomfortable scene. I mean, because I knew exactly where it was heading, and I haven't had a problem with the kissing and stuff lately, but I'm like the way they looked at each other and the way that she was looking at him, and then she says she loves him, which is just giving him what he wants. He just wants that adoration from her. He doesn't want sex. He wants her to just love him. That's all he's ever wanted.
hmm
And then the world turns upside down, and that's where it felt like an indie film to me, because I've seen a couple of indie films that include incest, and they try to artfully portray it, but it's just crazy just thinking about it anyhow. And then when they're in bed together, they're looking at each other and their faces don't express like, oh, I'm hot for this. Lestat's face is kind of questioning, like, should we be doing this? And she's kind of looking at him like, are we doing this? So I had the feeling that that was their first encounter. Like they never had a an explicitly sexual encounter before they became vampires. Like when she was rubbing his leg and everything, I felt like that was obviously her, being inappropriate with him at the time. But I think like this is their first encounter. And I think maybe they mentioned something about it on the After Dark episode. But like you, I feel like Gabriella, her character, for as many people who want to demonize her in this, especially because it's different than how she is in the book, I think she's fascinating. She's much darker and crueler than she is in the book, but damn, she is a great villainous foil for Lestat. And at the end, she comes back, at the end of this episode, she comes back and she's left him just long enough for him to kind of spiral downward. And then she comes back to him and she's like, listen to the voices, they're all calling for you, and it's like she didn't even have a reason to really go anywhere. I think she just left to like get him worked up enough that he will be pliable to whatever she has recommending for him, and she's kind of pushing him to say like, you know our people need a leader, you need to lead them.
I think that's the kind of point of Gabrielle is that she is the only one who can truly manipulate Lestat, besides
Hmm.
Akasha, of course. And they put such emphasis on his connection to his mother because every great force of nature needs something that it's weak against. Superman has kryptonite. I've run out of references, but well, like if you watch The Boys,
Uh-huh.
Homelander, he's got plenty of weaknesses, and
Hmm.
one of the weaknesses I always thought was very interesting is that there was a moment where a character showed him true like normalcy and humanity, and he was kind of disarmed by it. Lestat's not necessarily a Homelander, but he's definitely so big and magnum. Oh my God, I can't even say the word. He's so big that he does need to have something that makes him weak. And a lot of people say, well, Louis. No, not even Louis, because he did what he did to Louis despite all that.
Hmm.
Gabriella is his kryptonite. His mother
Yes.
is his kryptonite.
His
So,
mommy issues are his
right,
kryptonite.
that those take precedent over all things with Lestat. And so I love that they're creating this version of her. And I love the books. You know how much I love the books. But Roland James, he's taking it to a place that I wish Anne would have taken it,
Hmm.
you
Yeah,
know?
I think it's really interesting. I mean, I think I've mentioned a few times, I absolutely love The Witching Hour. It is probably up there as one of my favorite books I've ever read. I
Hmm.
think it's epic. Um, but I went after reading that, went back and started reading a lot of the Vampire Chronicles because I'd only read Interview with the Vampire. And I do love it. I love her writing. I love her characters that she's created. I love the situations and like lore of the universe that she's created. But sometimes I felt like the stories were kind of meandering and not really going anywhere. It didn't have a huge drive, and I felt like Roland Jones is giving it a lot of drive, giving us like a true villain to pit against Lestat, because
Hmm.
in the first season it was Armand, in the second season it's kind of Armand also. This season Armand is maybe getting a redemption arc. We don't know about that. But I like that they brought Gabrielle in as like a true villain to go up against Lestat in this season.
I love how everyone's kind of collectively like, we fucking hate you to Armand. And like, no, there's not one character who's been nice to him this whole time, besides Alex. I guess you can say Alex, but
I
Alex
know.
doesn't know him. And I know there's
I
a lot of,
love that.
I do too. And I know there's people who have a lot to say about that. And I'll leave that to the interwebs for that because I don't necessarily read into it that much. I think it's just there always needs to be a character nobody likes,
Hmm.
everyone hates. But that probably means that Armand's probably going to have a big redemptive moment. And so it's a literary device. Thank you. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
I don't know what is wrong with my brain tonight, but every word I want to say is lost in the ether. It's a literary
That's okay.
device. Hating Armand is a literary
It's the
device.
heat wave
Oh
brain.
my God, yes. It's been so hot here in Texas. But it's a literary device. There has to be a scapegoat character, and Armand is that character. And he's deserved it though.
But I gotta say, I mean, as much maybe I love to hate Armand, but I just love Armand. For one, he's played brilliantly by
Of
Assad
course.
Zaman, just wonderful. And he's such a well-written, well-nuanced villain. And it's like, I don't care. I don't have to live with these people. That's why I watch, fiction and fantasy because I can enjoy people who I would never ever want in my life. And Armand is one of those people. He's so manipulative, but acts like so innocent.
And I will say this, I prefer Gabrielle's manipulation over Armand's, and it is exactly because she is a woman and that looks fucking magnificent to me. So,
And
before
it's
anyone
funny.
goes, you just like it because it's a woman. You're right. That's exactly why I like
That's an
it.
interesting take because I'm like I don't like her manipulation. I was gonna say I don't mind the weird sexual relationship because she kind of explains it like they're vampires, so they're not human anymore, so it's not incest,
Yeah,
you know, wink, 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 nudge, nudge.
right.
Even though even some of the vampires kind of go, well, give it a side glance, but I don't even mind that. I just hate her way that she particularly manipulates Lestat's love because that is the one thing he just wants that one thing from her, and she absolutely will not give it to him unless she wants to manipulate him for some reason. So I just think that
Well,
is so cruel.
not to trauma dump randomly, but as someone who had some neglectful parents, yes, it does make me cringe to watch because
Mm,
I've been there, I've done that. But to as someone who understands the character, Gabriella being a woman from the 18th century,
yes.
manipulation and underhandedness and passive aggressiveness are her bread and butter, and she's a
Hmm.
well-honed blade in that
Yes.
regard. So it
And
might
I
be,
totally understand from her backstory too,
yeah,
like
yeah,
why she doesn't want to be tied down to anyone.
right. Exactly. So, um, I don't know. I just like it. I just like her. I just think she's magnificent, and the actress who plays her is magnificent. And I'm glad that they gave her an Italian accent because I definitely did not have an Italian accent in my head when I read her character growing up.
Hmm.
But I'm glad they did.
Hmm.
I'm
I
glad that
like
she's
it.
very Italian, not French.
I even like it's over the top. Like, oh,
Right.
she's been around for hundreds of years. She should have lost her accent by now. I'm like, no, girl, go for it. I
Right.
love it.
Exactly.
And
So,
that she reminds me a little bit of Cersei from Game of Thrones too, when Cersei tells Sansa, like, your greatest weapon is between your legs. It's like, yeah, that might be very sexist and everything, but that's what Cersei's weapon was, especially in her time.
right. She knows the game. She knows the rules to the game. She's using what she's got to her advantage. And it sucks that it had to be that way. And I don't say that lightly. I'm not being flippant about that at all. It sucks that it had to be that way. But if you're going to dominate the field with what you have, you know,
Hmm.
I see a clever person when I see that. But anyways,
Yeah.
we could talk about Gabriella all night.
Well, then let's move on to our second highlight since we brought up Armand. And what about Armand's 12-step program?
I laughed so hard at that. Oh
Oh
my
my
gosh.
God. This is one of the funniest things they've put in the show is Armand trying to go through the 12 steps. And since I'm not as familiar with them, I don't know what this step is. I don't think it's the first one, but it's one of the early ones where you have to go around and apologize to all the people that you've hurt in your life.
Hmm.
And he tries to go apologize to both Daniel and Lestat, and they give him the meanest, cruelest dressing downs I've ever heard. I mean, if you want to really go at someone, I need to hire these writers. Can we get them on Cameo or something to just
Right.
write some really horrible dressing downs for us? And just just from this little part of the narrative, we get a little bit of hints at the Devil's Minion because we get Armand finally confronting Daniel about turning him and saying, it wasn't out of cruelty that he changed Daniel, but out of love. And then he said, not love for Louis, but love. And he doesn't say who, but I think we get little inklings of this big story that's about to play out that I'm hoping is about to play out, and I think a lot of people online are hoping to play out, which is of the Devil's Minion from Queen of the Damned, actually, which is not the story they're covering right now, but I think it's going to be playing its way into here. And then let's see. Oh, yeah, the only other thing about Armand's 12-step program is that it leads to the most beautiful scene in the entire series, and that's Lestat's blood shower. God bless Sam Reed for accepting that he is the red meat of the show. He is
Yes.
going to stand there in his low-cut leather jeans and swish around in a blood shower and prance about on stage shirtless every night. Is like he understands the program.
And I don't really go for guys of his body type. I usually go for the stocky, bearish type, but I'd make an exception for Sam Reed because he's so magnificent and his aura is just fascinating. And I'm
Yes.
sure that's because he plays one of my favorite characters in existence, but I don't know. He's grown on me.
It's so funny too, because when you see Sam Reed in real life on interviews and stuff, he seems a little dorky, actually.
And
He's
shy.
yes,
Yeah.
he's kind of dorky, he's kind of shy, but he puts on that persona of Lestat and he embodies the character.
He does a fantastic job. Actually, so I can't remember the name of the show, but it's on Apple TV. I watched it before AMC did Interview with the Vampire, and there's a scene where, because he's a priest in the show, and he
Mm.
goes to a isolated nunnery in Scotland. I could be completely wrong. Somebody's going to correct me. That's fine. And it's a nunnery that is detached from the church at large, and the women there, they maintain the holy office in a particular way that's not correct. And he goes there basically to bring him back to the fold or flock or something like that. Well, he gets hurt and they go to help him because it's like raining when he gets there, and they strip him naked and you can kind of see like his body a little bit. And I was kind of, fascinated with that. And then when I realized it was the same actor, I was like, oh, so I did find you hot at one point.
I saw the trailers for that show. I actually would like to see it sometime. Hopefully after this series wraps up for the season.
It is also based off of a book. So this is his second time in a book adaptation. So just throwing that out there.
And the second time he's played a priest because he is currently on stage in Australia right now playing the main role. I can't remember the name of the main character, but the play Doubt. He's
Mm.
currently playing the main priest in Doubt,
Oh,
the
okay.
stage performance of it.
Yeah, that movie had Meryl Streep in it, and was it something Seymour Hoffman?
Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Yes, thank you. So just watch that movie too. It's a good movie.
Hmm.
But
It
anyways,
is.
anyways,
What's your second point?
mine would be the vampire population getting out of control and the elders feeling like the planet cannot support the population of the undead. It did not occur to me that that could be a problem. Like
Yeah.
when Daniel mentioned it, I was like, oh yeah, that would be a problem, wouldn't it? If there are too many vampires in the world, humanity would decimate quickly
Hmm.
because there'd be a lot of overfeeding, and then there would be wars. And that kind of answers a big question when it comes to vampire literature, which is why do vampires have to be in the shadows if they're so powerful? And it's
Hmm.
because they're so powerful that they have to be in the shadows. That kind of wanton power cannot just walk around openly, freely, without it
Hmm.
causing chaos at large. And since their main food source, being humans, are so fragile and susceptible to influence, it kind of makes sense that there can only be a handful of vampires in the world at one time.
Yeah, I think if you ever see the movie Daywalkers, it has Ethan Hawke in it. They
Yeah,
they address that problem,
right.
which maybe we'll cover one of these days on Vampcast.
Why not? Why not? If that
All
was
the
a
vamp
decent
film.
movie and it has William Dafoe in it, and when there's vampires around, William Dafoe is not far.
No, or werewolves now.
Yeah, yeah, or werewolves. So, but yeah, that was my second highlight, and there's also a kind of vampire hysteria going on in the show. There's the scene, obviously, where there's the quote unquote assassination attempt, and it comes from that same overzealous fan that keeps popping up.
Hmm.
At the beginning, he's there with the book, and he tells Lestat, I know it's real, I know you're real, and Lestat kind of goes, okay, who cares? And he keeps popping up, and then I feel like when he goes to try to kill him, it's like he's trying to prove to himself that he's not crazy. Like this is indeed an immortal person. So, and it's
Yep.
interesting because after the attempt, Lestat's in the van or the bus, and he's kind of looking at his wounds, going, "I'm really part of this world now. I'm really part of the flow of humanity because I've been acknowledged, I've been interacted with directly, I've been attacked, and it's not with a bullet, no less. And I can't
Hmm.
think of any vampire who's been like, yeah, I've been shot at before,
Yeah.
because vampires have no use for things like weapons. So it was probably a surreal moment for him when that happened. Like, I'm really in the world.
Yeah, that's a good point because Lestat loves to be with people. Like he loves being
Hmm.
a vampire, but he loves to be in the spotlight too.
Right,
Like I think that's why he created the idea for the Théâtre de Vampire and why he like would not hide in the shadows with Armand and his satanic group because he's like, we should walk around. We're gods. We should
right,
be walking around having a grand old time.
right, right. So I think that was a very interesting moment in the episode when that happened. And I mean, obviously, I've watched all the other episodes that come after, so I know how significant this is. But um, I like that he has these mental breaks here and there,
Hmm.
where the reality of what he's doing, the glitter and the glam stop for a moment, and he goes, "Oh shit, I'm really out here. I'm really in
And
this
that
world."
asshole shot Christine Cole,
I
our girl
know.
Christine, the
Love
ball
her.
breaker.
Yeah.
That's probably what he was upset about after he realized like he'd been shot. He's like, my girl Christine, my lover. How dare he shoot her? I love that every
Man,
time she calls, he just answers with it. He just answers lover.
love it. And she's so unfazed by the fact that he's a vampire. She just does not give a
No,
shit.
no.
She just cares about the proceeds and the money and everything
He is
else,
a
and
lawyer through and through. She doesn't care
thoroughly.
if he drinks blood. He's like, are you
No.
paying the invoices? We're good.
She's like vampire satanic rituals. Who cares? Am I getting paid? She'd probably work for the Mayfairs if they
Oh
hired her.
yeah, do it, girl. Except that they have a whole family of lawyers too. She'd have to get
Oh
in with
yeah.
their partnership.
Yeah, absolutely. It kind of makes me think of like Wolfram and Hart from the Buffyverse.
Uh-huh.
It's like the best way to describe it is they're like a demonic triad of lawyers, but they do like interdimensional law. And so, yeah, it's very interesting. If you haven't watched Angel, I suggest watching Angel. In fact, we could talk about Angel on the Vampcast,
I
obviously,
haven't
because
watched Buffy or Angel. That was a time in my life when I didn't have much time to watch TV, so
no,
I
you were
missed
out.
that whole time period of TV.
You were out living life. You weren't
Yeah.
looking at a screen like everybody else is
I
now.
was I was raising a family, getting a degree, and working a job.
Hmm.
On to our third highlights, Louis and Regina, or as they have dubbed her on the After Dark, Fraudia, which
Rod,
I think is hilarious.
we can combine our highlights because I also wrote Louis and Regina because I wanted to
Yes.
talk about that as well. So we might as well just have, a conversation in general
Yeah.
about them because the very peculiar situation. And I'll let you go ahead and start so that way
Oh,
I'm not
yeah.
dominating
Well,
the whole
my only main thing
podcast.
is, I know what Louis is doing is pretty sketchy, but is Regina playing Louis? Because he's mentioned that he looked her up online and she's got her OnlyFans page, but she's also had problems with the law as far as what was it, like credit card fraud or something like that? Maybe some of those things is like, so we know she's a little bit of a grifter. And how did she just come across Louise' path? Did somebody put her there? I'm
Right.
just worried. Like, I feel very, away for Regina. I mean, she's a grown woman. She seems very smart, But I just think this is a weird situation that Louise putting her into, but also did someone put her up to this? And is she playing a long game with Louis?
Well, also, remember last episode I said it would be interesting if they're going to do Merrick?
Hmm.
Well, Merrick's gonna pop up in the last episode.
Hmm. Yeah, I did see that on the, sorry, we're an episode ahead, but on the
Right.
next episode, which is New York, I did see that this is these were in some like next on clips. So
And
if
she's
you
and when
are,
if you go if you're part of the listeners, if you're part of the social media pages like on Facebook or whatever, they're already talking about Merrick being in the show. So this isn't a spoiler I'm creating. This is already an outward and
Mhm.
in the streaming, whatever kind of spoiler. But I seem to have predicted accurately that Merrick was going to make an appearance, and it's definitely probably I'm almost 100% certain it has something to do with Regina. So
Interesting.
I'm very curious, with what happens there. But yes, Regina definitely comes from a more seedier, and she lived in a flattened zone too, which if anyone knows anything about London, the city's divided up and organized into zones, and zone two is the more uh, like poor, impoverished area of the city.
Hmm.
So um, I almost said Whitechapel, but no, Whitechapel is shopping centers now, shopping area, like high
Oh,
end.
is it?
So yeah, Whitechapel used to be the bad part of London. So
Yeah, I think that was my main thing is I wonder if Regina is playing a long game here with Louis. And then the only other thing is I absolutely love that they created a separate non-canon storyline for Louis because he doesn't really do much in the book. So we had to, of course, have more Jacob Anderson and, of course, more Delaney Hales too. I'm totally happy having them both in the show. But a lot of people are complaining, like, "Oh, we're not getting enough time with Lestat in the past and stuff." And I'm like, that's one of the reasons why. It's because we're adding in this whole extra story about Louis so that he can have some screen time too. So it's like you can't have both, you're going to have some of your screen time with Louis and his story and current day Lestat and what he's going through, and then that means cutting out less of the backstory. I mean, they should just make the episodes an hour and a half, and then we can all get what we want.
well, they're definitely going to make another season, and it's going to become more Queen of the Damned and less the Vampire Lestat at that point. And I'm quite certain there's going to be more backstory because um, I can't even say it yet. Gosh darn it.
We'll save it for the book talk.
Yeah, I can't say it because it's in the next episode, and we can't
Oh,
talk about the
okay.
next episode
Okay.
yet. Darn it,
That's
darn it,
okay.
darn it.
Write it in a note so you don't forget for next week.
I will. But essentially, you're going to get more backstory in the next season. So I think that was my first complaint too, when they started doing like the Magnus, when Magnus was introduced finally. I was like, they just kind of glossed over it. But now I kind of
Hmm.
understand, like, oh, I see what they're doing. It's being done um, in a specific strategic way to prelude to what's going to happen next. And if you read the books, obviously, you'll see that there's a lot of flashbacks that happen in the books as well. So
Speaking of Magnus, I didn't get to say this last week, and I know Magnus is kind of horrible, but isn't that actor adorable? I just thought he was darling. I thought he was the most darling little vampire I've ever seen, especially when he's at Lestat's performance with a bottle of wine and roses. I'm like, oh my God, Magnus is a quirky little art kid, and he's so weird, except for his black teeth.
I liked who they had casted as Magnus. I won't lie. I've been thoroughly satisfied so far with what they've done. Like, as a book purist, for me to be happy with all the changes and renovations they've done, that's a big deal. They've really done something magnificent here. And I think people who insist that the show should follow the book more, I think at this point they're just finding reasons to be upset. They want to be upset
Hmm.
about the adaptation. It's not because the adaptation sucks. The adaptation's amazing. It's magnificent. They
Yeah.
just they just don't want to like it. They just not like it, just not like it at this point. There's
Yeah.
really no
Well, we're
valid
having
reason.
fun, so yay
Yeah.
for us.
Yay for us. Honestly, though, to be honest, looking forward to those Sunday nights, you know?
Yes, me too. Did you have any more to add about Louis and Regina?
Yes, actually. Claudia with a OnlyFans account. How fascinating, you know?
And with the popularity of the book right now, wasn't it Daniel who said in season two that like people start dressing up like her and like making up like once it's put out there, they'll be making up their own ideas about her and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And then uh she would I would assume she would assume would I she would I assume sorry would probably read the book after that if after he because he just shows her the
Yeah.
book and
Hmm.
says that there's a girl in there and she goes what happens to the girl and he can't finish the sentence, you know.
Yeah.
So I would imagine she reads the book and probably has a lot to say about Claudia as a person. I just love that it's kind of meta the way they're going
Yeah.
about this, you know what I mean?
Huh. How so with this one in
Well, it's
particular?
like it's almost as if Claudia is going to analyze herself.
Hmm. Interesting.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Well, she definitely read the book because at the end when she says, "What now, Daddy Lou?" And I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, so cringy."
Yeah. Yes. Yes. And then also, I love seeing Delaney still being part of the series.
Hmm.
You know, she did a good job. I don't want to say I prefer her over the first Claudia. They both
Hmm.
did a great job. I can't remember what the reasoning for the first Claudia's departure from the show was, but
It's because she was already in a contract with the Avatar series, the James Cameron Avatar series, the movies.
oh, she left it to go play an alien?
Well, she had already been in one movie,
Hmm.
and then he decided he wanted to do like four more. So she was
Yeah.
kind of in contract conflict with that. So she had to quit, sadly.
Well, I don't know very much about these contracts, these studio, contracts, and how binding they are. But
Yeah, yeah.
I would have been frustrated. I would have been mad as hell.
I know. I really was upset when I heard she was leaving because I have a thing where if main characters leave a show, it makes it really hard for me to connect with that character again because I have a really
Yes.
strong mind for faces. And I mean, I can tell an actor who totally doesn't look like himself in another show just because I catch on to features really well. So it makes it hard when they change an actor because I'm like, this is not that person anymore. I can't relate to their face, but she did such a really good job, and I love her as Claudia too. Although I do love Bailey Bass. I thought she was the most adorable,
Yeah.
like little monster.
Oh, yeah. And then, well, it kind of makes me think of, Roseanne, where partly through the series, the original Becky stopped to go to college, and then they had someone else play Becky, but they can make continuous jokes and,
Yes.
commentary about the fact that there's a different Becky. And so,
Mhm.
uh, I mean, if Roland James wanted to do that with this Claudia, that would have been kind of funny.
Well, they kind of did it with Lestat when he said that in recalling Lestat in the book, Louis gave him shorter hair and didn't talk about the scars, just
That's true.
because his Sam's hair hadn't grown out enough in season one to have these long flowing locks, and so he had to have the shorter bob.
He
And
didn't
they kind of brush it off by saying, "Oh, Louis recalled my hair being shorter than it is."
he didn't say anything. They didn't say anything about Claudia, did they? I don't remember
I
him.
don't think so. Not that
No.
I've
Oh.
seen or heard yet.
Well, that was a missed opportunity. They could have totally been like, and Claudia was not described as blah 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 blah, and then had Delaney be the quote unquote true Claudia. But
Hmm.
whatever. Maybe they didn't want to make the other actress feel bad. They didn't want to
Yeah,
make Bailey feel bad or whatever. So that's
that's
fine.
true.
That's fine.
All right. So now we are moving on to our quotes, notes, and needle dropes. What have you got, Billy?
Well, Lestat referred to P. Diddley as the P. Diddler, and I never thought in 1,000 years that I would hear my favorite character, who I thought was the penultimate example and expression of, sensuality and poetics, refer to P. Diddy as the P. Diddler, but he did. And it was so hilarious and completely like character accurate. Lestat would refer to P. Diddy
Yes.
that way. And then he he referred to Chipotle as Chipotle.
That was hilarious.
I was like, what in the hell? Uh, and then I loved when he said the body cam is America's compact mirror. And I was like, oh yeah, that's very, very true.
Yeah.
And I love the quote when he's on stage and he's getting ready to sing the diss track to Armand. He says, uh, and I am actually the toxic bitch, anxiously attached show pony with a personality disorder called Lestat. And I'm just like, I just love you to death. You are
Yeah.
so precious. You are
I need
just
to
so
memorize
precious.
that line and just drop it sometime.
Yes, and I was definitely going to post that on Facebook, but I was like, I don't think enough people understand the reference to be like, what is he talking about? And they'll think I'm vague posting or something. I'm like, no, I'm having a good day. I'm not angry. I'm seeking attention online. I just love this line. And then lastly, he referred to Armand's eyes as Japanime eyes.
I know. I didn't even catch that on first watch, and I think I heard it when they talked about it on After Dark or something, and I'm like, that is hilarious because my daughter loves anime, and I knew exactly what they were talking about when they talked about his Japanime eyes.
I just love how Lestat could just he has got like such a Rolodex of wit that he could literally throw shade at anybody
Hmm.
and it would be so well said, so well constructed that you can't only stop but to marvel at the insult that was just thrown at you. Like that was awful, but the execution was so amazing that I'm not even mad. I'm just kind of amazed.
I know. What does he call Armand? I don't think I'll refer to Armand anymore as the Gremlin. I think I'm going to refer to him as the French Bengali Smoke Show.
Yes.
I loved that.
He would read you to filth in an instant, and it would be nothing to him. I mean, whoever they have writing the wit for Lestat is
Hmm.
like doing top tier, like advanced English, work, and deserves some kind of award for the writing because
I
I'm
know. Can
just
they put that in
impressed.
the Emmys somewhere?
Yes, I mean, come on. I am very impressed with the writing, and I'm not usually overly impressed with the way TV shows and characters in TV shows are written. Only rarely am I like, wow, that's a really well written character. Like off the top of my head, Darth Traya of Knights of the Old Republic, a video game, a Star Wars
Hmm.
video game. I think she's a very well written video game character, and as far as TV goes. Um, my favorite would have to probably be Buffy. I think she's a very well written TV character. There's
Mm.
very distinct Buffy-isms that are easily recognizable, and that's because the people who wrote that show did an amazing job. So very
One of these days,
rarely,
I'll know what I was missing.
yes, you
I'll catch an episode
should.
or two and then see if I'm hooked.
I got a friend's daughter to watch the series, and she became obsessed. So
Nice.
it's really easy. The first season's a little rough, a little hard to get into, but afterwards it gets much better, much more enjoyable, and then you're like, wow, this is a really great show. But anyways,
Excellent. I loved all of those lines. This episode was full of great lines. Like my favorite is, well, this one is a little more serious, but when he
yeah.
says to Gabriella when she hops back up on the tour bus at the very end of the episode, when he says, "Go away, why won't you let me hate you?" Like he wants her, he doesn't want to have this love for her that he can never have returned to him. He wants to be able to tell her to go away and never come back, but he can't. And it reminded me so much of when he said to Louis in season one, when he takes him up into the stratosphere, he says, "Say, Lestat, I will never love you. It will help me a great deal to hear that from your lips." Like he wants so badly to be loved that
Hmm.
he almost wants the people he loves so much to tell them that they don't love him so that he cannot think about how much he wants them or wants to be loved by them.
Right, right.
Yeah. And then the others are just fun comments like when the police officer and his dog are on the bus, and Lestat says, "Delilah is right. It is cocaine. We are a rock band, and we need it to do our job." And they've got bowls of cocaine on the table. Oh, and then also he says when they're talking about Louis and Lestat says Louis de Luc or Thomas Pitt or he who licenses and franchises the night. I thought that was another really clever witticism because, of course, at the end of season two, Louis says that he owns the night, but Lestat says he licenses and franchises the night.
Well, also, by the way, I think we said maybe we said last episode, but Thomas Pitt literally is a reference to Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt, just so y'all
Yep.
know. Just so y'all know.
And of course, the song this episode is "Big Boss," which written to Armand to cut him down as he appears at Lestat's show. But it was inspired via Salamander, who was telling the lyrics to Lestat at the beginning of the episode, but he was calling it Big Bus.
Hmm.
And it's
Hmm.
just terrible, terrible, unrhyming lyrics, but Lestat's able to take that and convert it to Big Boss, which is a bop. I enjoyed it.
I did too. It's a lovely diss track.
And then my last comment was just Lestat looked especially beautiful on stage this time. I loved his look with the ponytails or the pigtails with the black ribbon in them and the makeup and everything. And then he had like his pinstripe pants on that looked really similar to the pinstripe suit he wore to the hearing in Paris, and I thought he was like putting on a very draggish version of like a 17th century fop, or you know, he was just channeling his 17th century look for this like rock look he was sporting that night.
It's funny you mention that because his eye makeup made me think of Santiago.
Ah, yeah,
And he was
definitely.
definitely making references to the quote unquote court or trial.
Yes, the kangaroo court that they had for
Hmm.
Louis and Claudia. Yeah,
Hmm.
because he wore the same pinstripe pants. Wow, I'm just realizing it that now, and he has Santiago's makeup, and yeah, he was trying to harken
And
back to.
Claudia's hair, because she had the pigtails when she was
Oh, yeah,
playing.
yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. For some reason, that just reminded me of how lords in the 1700s used to tie their hair back with
Oh
black
yeah,
ribbons.
yeah.
Yeah, but
Well,
yeah, that's good that it also refers to Claudia and how she wore her hair.
we have one version of that day from Louis' point of view, but what is the possibility that Lestat was as manipulated into doing that as they were?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, Lestat literally went out of his way to save Louis, and Armand didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So he could have
Yeah,
very much
Armand
been
was prepared to let Louis die.
right, which I still don't understand why. All that quote unquote love he had for him, and he was going to let his coven kill him.
Well, he was perfectly happy to let his coven be burned up too, and the theater.
Right, right.
So,
So,
how much does Armand love these loves of his?
right. He just it's kind of like he treats people like chess pieces, and um, he doesn't like to be alone. He's definitely codependent. Armand is very codependent, and that I kind of feel like that last scene with Daniel and him on the street, and they're talking about their vampiric bond. I think um, Armand was telling Daniel what he wanted to hear because Armand's alone. No
Mm,
one wants him. No one likes him. Everyone's mean to him. And I don't think he can handle and tolerate being alone because he's always been surrounded by other vampires, whether it's in the Satanic Coven or the Théâtre des Vampires. He's always surrounded by other vampires. So for Armand to be alone is probably excruciating. He's never had to, in the 500 years he's been alive, he's never really had to do that. Oh, and then before he was a vampire, he lived with Marius at the Piazza in Italy
hmm.
with all the other boys.
Yeah.
So Armand's not used to being alone, and he probably doesn't know how to be alone, and it's probably hard for him to be alone.
And Armand is a lot like me in my early 20s, late late teens and early 20s, I couldn't break up with a boy, even if I was tired of him and I didn't want to date him anymore. I was like, maybe if I just act like a real jerk, he'll just break up with me. That's Armand. He's like, I don't want to be the one doing the breakup with my coven or my boyfriend or anything. I'll just invite someone else in to cause drama and blow shit up so I can get out of this thing.
Oh, God sake. I won't lie. I've never been very good at being by myself either, so I
And
get
then
it
he'll
on
go
some
find his
levels.
next thing.
Right.
Well, that is it for our coverage of this week's episode. Just wanted to give a few other shout outs to the Pirate Core Entertainment Network. Some of the other shows on the network are shows like What's On Tonight with one of our co-hosts, Becky, covering shows like The Pit and What We Do in the Shadows. There's also the flagship show, Panels to Pixels, that covers all things comic book related with Mark and Steve. Then we also have Adrenaline Cinema podcast where Mark will cover action movies and shows, and we have
Oh,
with you, Billy. Oh,
well, and also me and you, Laura, we cover
yes,
things all the
we've been
time
on there.
too. Yeah,
Yeah.
we have also done music. We've done
Uh-huh.
music. You know,
Hmm.
we should do more music actually, but
Yes.
we've done music. We've done some of the other movies that are, you know, correlated with the
Yes.
Vampire
Like
Lestat. So,
Nosferatu. Well, we did
right.
Nosferatu on
Hmm.
Adrenaline Cinema, which may eventually come on to Vampcast. But yeah, that's actually where this podcast started. So if you guys want to hear our coverage of seasons 1 and 2 of Interview with the Vampire, go back and listen to those on Cinema podcasts. And then we also have Dinner with Her, a podcast about real life historical women.
That's our coverage of season 1 of the Vampire Lestat, episode 4, entitled The Devil's Road. Next week, we'll be covering episode 5, New York. If you're interested in book talk, we'll be covering that after our sign off. But for now, I'm Billy with an IE,
And I'm Lara.
and this has been Vampcast. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening. I don't know, sound effects. We
Sound
are now
effects.
going into book talk, spoilerish book talk.
And it will be very spoilerish because I cannot shut up.
What are you going to talk about?
Well, um, there, sorry, reading. Um, at this part of the book, there's it's starting to bleed into Queen of the Damned. We're getting to start to have conversation. Well, at this part, there would be uh, a longing for Marius. He starts searching for Marius, and he goes across the world carving his name and a message into like rocks and buildings and things like that. Because he hears, I can't remember how he hears of Marius. Oh no, Armand.
Is he with Gabriella at this time?
No,
I know they take off for a while with after the Teatro de Vampire, after they leave them and after Nikki dies, they go off together. But I don't know if she's with him on his entire search for Marius.
no. Then that's what makes him search for Marius is because his mother abandons him. What
Okay.
happens is Gabriella tells Lestat that she's leaving, and at first he's sad, and that's also the other thing about Anne's writing. The I don't think she likes. I don't think she really liked writing certain emotions with her
Hmm.
characters because I feel like she glosses over certain emotions, and one of them being, or rather, she didn't believe the emotions of her characters, if that makes sense. I think she wanted Gabriella to be a lone character by herself, and she was just kind of like, well, I've used Gabriella for what I needed her. She can leave now. So it felt like the sadness Lestat felt when she left was kind of forced
Hmm.
because I don't think Anne believed in the sadness that Lestat would feel for his mother leaving.
Hmm.
So that one of the things I wanted to say during the episode was that I think the emotions that they give the characters in the show are a bit more pronounced and a bit more defined than they are in the book sometimes because Anne likes to dabble in not melancholy, but melodrama a little bit. which
Hmm.
for some people, melodrama can work really well. But I am not a fan of melodrama. I don't find melodrama to be believable. In fact, even with people, when someone's melodramatic as a person, I feel like they're just performing emotions to try to get sympathy or manipulate a situation. So when her characters are melodramatic in the books, I kind of like, I don't believe you actually feel this. Um, and so when she leaves in the books, Lestat's emotional state is not super defined, but I like how they have Sam Reed's Lestat being really, really upset and hurt when his mother leaves.
Hmm.
And so Gabriella in the books, she leaves. She just takes off. She goes, well, I've had enough. I'm gonna go into the woods. And so she disappears entirely. Um, and contrary to the show, I think because it's not well known if Gabriella goes off into the woods in this show, just that she disappears in general.
Hmm.
So in the books, she runs off and leaves civilization completely. She likes to go into the jungles.
Yeah.
She likes to climb the mountains. She
Hmm.
probably hung out in the Himalayas for a long time,
She does become a force of nature.
right, literally. And so um, she leaves. So Lestat's alone and he starts looking for a mentor. And since Magnus is dead, he has no real mentor. So he starts looking for Marius. He starts scratching his name in the surfaces of various, boulders and buildings and
Hmm.
whatever, waiting, trying to get Marius's attention. So um, that is where we are. And then we start getting hints and nudges at what comes next.
Hmm.
Um, I'm debating whether I want to say this because it has to do with the next episode, but I don't want to say anything about the next episode yet.
Yes. So I said you got to write a note so you remember to talk
Right,
about it in the next episode.
right. But that is why, like, when people complain about Gabriella, I'm like, the Gabriella of the books is so uninteresting. She feels
Hmm.
so two-dimensional to me. And it's weird because Anne always talked about how she thought women were boring.
Hmm.
She did. She had a little bit of, misogynistic points of view about her own sex. And that's because she was her time period that she grew up in. Men were overtly misogynistic. It was part of the culture. But she talks about how she found how even Lestat even says in the beginning of the Vampire Lestat, women were more interesting in this century. She had a disdain for women. She thought women were boring. So sometimes when I read some of the female characters in the books, they're kind of boring.
I do agree that she seems to have a harder time writing likable female characters than she does male characters. And I guess that's
Hmm.
why I've mentioned on this show, like, it'll be nice to be able to have a female character who doesn't die, who isn't like horrible or something like that. But, we'll see. We'll see who comes around. I mean, Claudia was written brilliantly,
Yes,
but
she
like I
was.
said, she's no longer with us, and not no neither is Madeline. And I love how much more agency and nuance that the writers of this show have given to the female characters. Even Antoinette, for
Hmm.
as little time as she was on the show, she was given a bit more character too.
I agree. I definitely agree. And it kind of feeds my idea that Anne may have played with a kind of, you know, neo transgenderism, if you will, where
Hmm.
psychologically she was experiencing some of the world as a man might.
Hmm.
Maybe not physically, but psychologically she might have been.
Yeah. I think I read in a interview somewhere that she like never really wanted to write another book about Gabriella because she just didn't care. And I personally have not read Pandora yet, so I would be really interested in reading from Pandora's point of view. I did like Merrick, and I can't wait till we can talk about that. I really enjoyed that book, but
Hmm.
and Merrick is quite an interesting character too. I'm interested to see how they depict her. But
Hmm.
yeah, I think Pandora really is the only book with a main female protagonist, correct?
Yeah. actually. And she talks about Mona Mayfair when Mona is eventually turned into a vampire, which Mona doesn't
God, I
really.
hate Mona.
I know, I
Don't even
know.
talk to me. I hated her in The Witching Hour. I hated her in all the Mayfair books. The only time I liked her was in Blackwood Farm
Right.
because she
Oh,
was almost dead.
and when she does give any attention to a female character, she always writes the female character being emotionless and kind of
Hmm.
staunch because
Maybe.
because oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, because we're talking about the Mayfairs.
Rowan?
Rowan, right. Her
Uh-huh.
Rowan was always described as kind of staunch and emotionless too.
hmm Yeah, I mean, Rowan almost gives me not quite to the manipulative. Well, she is a little manipulative too. She gives me sort of Gabriella feels, at
Hmm.
least book Rowan, not show Rowan.
No. No, not at all. I
Well,
find
I
that
didn't know if we wanted
fascinating.
to touch on Devil's Minion a little bit since it's such a big thing that they're building towards.
Sure, we can.
I mean, I don't remember it that much because I wasn't as that excited about it when I read it in the books. I just kind of read it and I'm like, okay, that's interesting. That now the boy has a name because in Interview with the Vampire, Daniel never has a name. They just refer to him as the boy. And
Yes.
then they brought him back in Queen of the Damned as Daniel Malloy. But I think the funniest part about it is that so in the books he goes to find Lestat because Louis won't change him, and he hopes that Lestat will. And when he gets to Lestat's townhome in Louisiana, he doesn't find Lestat, but he does find Armand. And so him and Armand start this like kind of weird relationship for quite a while, but he's much younger at this point. He's not
Mm.
in his 70s. He's like in his 30s or something like that. And they we start a weird relationship where Daniel's constantly asking Armand to change him into a vampire, and Armand's like, "No, that's the most hideous thing ever. I will never change anyone into a vampire." And so they just start this decades long relationship. Is it decades? I don't know. It's a long time where Armand is just kind of constantly like kind of stalking him, kind of being weird to him, showing up in the middle of the night and asking him like how to play a CD player or something like that. I always thought that was the funniest part was Armand's obsession with technology and always wanting Daniel to like show him how to use things. And then I think he eventually changes Daniel because for one, Daniel's about to die because he's such a he's like deeply alcoholic, and he's sort of on the verge of death because he kind of spirals because of this obsession with becoming a vampire and his obsession with Armand that he starts to like drink and do drugs and just go down a bad road altogether. Um, and then he's about to die from alcoholism, but also because I think Armand is trying to spare him from what he knows is coming, which is Akasha.
Hmm.
So, yeah, so I think that's why he changes him. Is
I also
that
find
what
it
you
fascinating.
recall?
Yes, I do. That's what I recall. He also does a lot of things where like he becomes voluntarily homeless
Mm-hmm.
and he makes a lot of money off the novel in the books, by the way. And I love how even Anne Rice's homeless characters are wealthy. And so she loved two things, being a man and
Oh,
having money.
the town north of us is Boulder, which is basically Colorado's Berkeley,
Hmm.
and we have those rich homeless people. We call them Trustafarians
Trustafarians.
because they're rich college kids who just want to sit on a curb and like panhandle for money, and then they jump into their BMW and drive home.
Oh my God. Just you play acting homelessness and poverty, just like it's a fun thing to do. But the reason why Daniel's doing it is because he doesn't want to benefit off the books. He just wants the blood. He didn't want the money to begin with. He wanted the transition. And so he walks around disheveled, homeless, sleeps on park benches, drinks himself to a stupor. Uh, and once in a while, Armand will come and pick him up and take him to a hotel and get him cleaned up and let him sleep. And then he'll disappear and try not and the funny thing is he's trying to elude Armand, but Armand knows where he's at all times. He knows when Daniel's sleeping in a park somewhere. He knows. He's not far away. And so um yeah, that relationship is always very fascinating to me. And then if you've read the books, you find out that the when Daniel does become a vampire, the vampirism makes him crazy. drives him
Hmm.
mad. And Marius has to be his babysitter after that, which is like grandparents having to take care of their grandkids. I mean,
Damn that rotten boy.
I know, babies having
Armand.
babies.
Well, yeah, I wonder how they're going to play that up in the show since
Hmm.
it's now 50-year gap that
Hmm.
they have known each other, and so that'll be interesting. I think we'll be able to talk more about that in the next episode, but I do think that they're trying to thread that through this story, and
Hmm.
that'll be fun to
It
see
will
how that
be.
develops.
Yeah. I'm excited and I can't wait to start talking more at length about the references that our queen makes in the next episode. And I'm very
Next
excited.
episode
Yeah.
is off the hook. I am so
Yes.
excited
Yes,
for
yes,
it.
yes. I made a TikTok. Speaking of TikToks, I made a TikTok and I used the audio from that episode, and it's got a lot of likes and refollows, and or not refollows,
Ah,
but re posts and things like that. So everyone really loves the that scene that you probably know what I'm
uh-huh.
talking about. Yeah,
Yep.
everyone loves
Yep.
that scene. So
Oh,
it's
okay.
a
Well,
really good
we
scene.
will be back next week to discuss all of that. And for now, tally ho.
Cheers.